Ready? 6 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. This is the March 5th, 2025 regular city council meeting. We have Susan online and Chris has an excused absence. He is at a conference, I believe. Everyone else is accounted for. Please join me for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Any changes to our very short agenda tonight?
No.
All right. Thank you. Any correspondence or announcements you want to make?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Shred Day is finally official. It'll be on March 22nd from 10 a.m. to noon. And we actually will have a truck here and they will shred the documents on site. So
Basically, while you wait, so if anybody has anything sensitive, you get to watch it go in, you know, it goes to the shredder. So, and I think we'll have a couple of us here to help anybody that needs help.
yes, I will need volunteers because Becky cannot lift anything. So
Yeah.
I do need some people to help. I did get the two that came to game day. They're going to come and help too.
Okay, good.
So is this free?
One banker's box.
First box is free for residents.
Per resident, yes.
One banker's box?
Yeah, one box.
One box, okay.
Yeah.
So if you have a 20-year supply, like a lot of people do. So if we can do this
I'm not
annually,
taking measurements of boxes.
and if we could do an annual event, then hopefully it doesn't pile up. Certainly, it's a great, we got a couple of sponsors from the community to help pay for it.
I was gonna say we should recognize those
Yeah.
folks. So it's Zalezi Insurance, and also, some real estate agents. So from Remax, Linda Tipton, and some others.
All right.
When was the personal planning?
That's gonna be in April,
April.
and I confirmed with her today. So I
Yeah, she
believe,
gave us a date, right?
yes, she did kind of have to change it a
Oh,
bit. She thought
okay.
it was a different date than it actually is.
Okay.
But it's only changing by, it's the same day, it's just a different date. So it's gonna be April 24th. Unfortunately, it's gonna be at 1 p.m. So kind of in the middle of the day.
One? Yeah, 1 in the afternoon.
And she's actually gonna bring another, she's thinking she's gonna bring another firm with her, so it's not just gonna be her.
I know a guy that was interested in it, so.
Yeah.
Now, what was that again? I'm sorry?
Estate planning
Estate planning.
and estate administration,
Right.
that's what
Okay.
she's calling it right now.
Very good.
Also, I'm probably gonna email all of you. I have a meeting with our insurance company next week, and there's a 7-page survey that they have given me. And in the 7-page survey, it asks whether or not all of you have taken the elected essentials training videos from the League of Oregon Cities. And then also, there's also two FEMA classes that are asking if everybody is taking. So I'll
What
probably
are
send you.
those? Emergency management?
Yes, one is an introduction to the National Incident Management System, and then the other is an introduction to the Incident Command System. So if you
I'm up through the 900 level.
send me your certificates,
I don't want to do that for a living anymore, but I mean, see what I can find.
that'd be great. You can give me your certificates.
Could you send me a link to those training?
I can, yes, yep, I'll send those out probably tomorrow then. And then the last thing for me is that the ethics, the Oregon Ethics Committee or Commission, they are actually gonna come here on 6/25 at 10 a.m. So they have confirmed as well as far as a training for ethics.
All right, and how long is that? Do you remember?
It's a few hours. I think
4
it was-
hours or
yeah.
something, right? Couple,
Yeah.
3, 4 hours? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. That takes us to item 6, citizens input on items not discussed in a public hearing. We don't have any public hearings tonight, but Rapunzel, you were here first. Anything, do you have any comments?
No, sir.
Okay, Joe?
No, sir.
Ms. Jackson?
Thank you. Just briefly, I'm
Sure.
Judy Jackson, I think most of you know that. But I just wanted to bring up the fact that I love the new sign, and I talked to you last meeting about that. But I wondered if you were aware that it's very hard to see at night I am maybe mistaken, but I used to think the old signs were lit. Perhaps it's that the street light was just brighter. But it's very hard to read this sign at night. I don't know if you noticed that, but you might on the way out take a look. It's very dark, which is a shame because it's such a nice sign. And I just want to say too, thank you for meeting with me. I really appreciate that. And thank you for being the nice group of people that you are.
Thanks. All right, so I have a whole bunch of little things on the mayor's report. So we've got an inquiry from Hayek Fiber. Our agreement is agreed to, and they have come inquiring about permits. There'll be part underground, part on the power poles, depending on which part of town. So anyway, we don't have a real schedule for the rollout, but they are moving this direction. Food trucks, you brought up the idea of the food trucks. They're fine. I think you talked to two. I talked to the guy that leases that parking lot, and he said, oh yeah, they're quite happy. I don't know what's going on in Florence. So anyway, I think they're able to rent spaces in Florence. Nobody wanted to move. We got some info from, with our Spectrum Charter franchise agreement that we just approved. We have some information. I'm going to reach out to them. So we had two questions. You want to know how they do their audit, if they will share something so we can review that franchise fee. The other is I'm going to contact them about the cell service. That was about their wire line, but we know who the rep is, and I'm going to talk to them about cell service because, so many spots in town have terrible cell service, and they're the most popular provider around here. So anyway, I'll reach out to them on that. Coast Pavement, this was an add-on to the pothole patching. They're assessing our pavement, so they're looking at the whole street, or all the city streets, all the public streets all at once, and they will have a report for us, and so we can better estimate annual pavement maintenance and probably look a couple of years ahead. And there have been some opportunities for small cities money and infrastructure money. And we always say, yeah, we should apply, but we don't know what we're applying for. You can't just say, just give me $100,000 or maybe 200,000. We don't know. So now we can have a list and say, here's our 3-year need, and based on our current funding, this is what we're going to apply for. So we should have some real numbers soon. Our street brooming contract or street sweeping contract will start in April. That will be second quarter of this calendar year. And every quarter, they'll sweep all the city streets. And then separate contract is, we're calling it right-of-way maintenance, but it's basically the brush trimming, ditch cleaning, tree limbs, all the down stuff. So landscaper will clear all that stuff, and that is twice a year?
They're working on a number of hours.
Okay.
We've been allotted to them,
Got it.
and they actually started yesterday.
Okay, so that's
Right? Was that, or Monday?
basically an annual contract, but we have a finite amount of hours we can afford. So they'll be making the rounds. And then when we have one of these windstorms or something, we'll be able to call them. We've had a number of meetings with Water Resources Department. We have a follow-up with the Water Master's Office in March. There is it's a House bill, right? House Bill 2803 will raise fees associated with water substantially, like double or triple, like applications and amendments and transfers and the sort of things we're working on right now. So the staff has actually told us, get as close as you can get in June and submit it. We're gonna get you in. We're gonna date stamp it received, just at least because we have a permit amendment, and we're gonna apply for beneficial use on one of these permits. We think we can get there in June. So that will start a different kind of a review. So anyway, the fee increase is one problem, but the other is we're making some progress on some of the.
Did they say what the stated reason was for a fee increase?
I didn't even read that whole bill. They just said, here's the summary, the fee's gonna go way up. And I think it's just cost recovery, and it's tricky. The staff has been hugely helpful, so I don't wanna insult the staff, but I'm gonna write to a couple of our representatives and say, I appreciate the staff support, but it's the legislature and, it's state law, they keep adding on, it's gotten so complicated, even the staff, they're like, we had 6 people on one call, and they're like, this one does amendments, and this one does research, and this is the analyst, and this is the water master, and the water master's boss, and I mean, we had the whole crowd there. And there is so many moving parts to this now, and I'm like, look, we're a town, we're talking about 250 people drinking lake water, and, this is really difficult. As a tiny municipal system, and so the staff's been helpful, but the reality is, I'm gonna tell them, I need to triple a fee, and to make it better, whoever authored it, it says adopt as an emergency exists, so it's a financial emergency in air quotes. If it doesn't pass by July, but it passes, it's retroactive to July 1st. So effective the state's fiscal year, they get the new fee. But I said, I'm in the start of the budget cycle. I don't even know what to plug in because I don't know what's gonna get approved or how much it's gonna be. And it's a plug number right now anyway, because we will have to raise a fee to the people who are using the water to help pay for this, so.
And that's 135% increase.
It could be 300%,
Holy
double
shit.
to triple
It's,
So-
on application fees.
and
So
it's all
this-
part of a bill that the state of Oregon right now is trying to push where they are gonna force every single individual to put a meter on there, and then
That's on the wells.
they're not only gonna charge you for the privilege of having that well, but then they're gonna charge you so much per cubic foot.
Yeah.
This is a big bill that's being
Well,
pushed to
there's
the
two,
Senate.
there's actually
It's,
two.
it's in the legislature.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
and it's
HB
government
2003
overreach is really what it is.
fees, and the other was rules.
Mhm.
But that one, I think that's all talk right now. They said, review the rules around water, because they're looking for all the opportunities. So I think those are just ideas. That's not in a bill
That,
yet.
that
No,
was
that
Bill
one-
HB
No,
one.
2914, I thought.
2914? Oh, then there's maybe 3.
And part of that is they want to basically tell all these farmers that they can't use their, regular wells for irrigating or for
Depending on how they were permitted.
farm use.
We get a lot of that too. They say, you realize you have domestic only, and some customers have no irrigation, and some customers do, and this is really hard for us to manage. How do you tell one homeowner, yours included irrigation, your next door neighbor doesn't include irrigation anymore? So it's a bit of a hairy mess.
It's too much government overreach is what it is.
Well, it's also the most precious resource you have. And we're not struggling, but you go in
Well,
and they're struggling.
it's-
I mean, there's spots that are way
They're gonna-
overdrafted and, wells are dry and.
But if I'm not mistaken, when Water Master was out here, she said she wasn't really worried about our location and here on the
No.
coastline, it was Eugene.
But her
and-
analyst was, she's like, oh, on paper, you're overdrawn in the summer for 2 months. I'm like, that's news to me, because the lake still looks like.
House
pretty
Bill
big lake.
3419,
3419?
yes, I'm gonna look at
Okay.
it.
All right, so anyway, there's a lot. I mean, if you know somebody, reach out. In the past, I've talked to Boomer and Dick Anderson. They both have been very supportive of small towns. They're both the representatives for the area. And, the one on the fees is going to, it hasn't gone to committee yet. So it hasn't been introduced. Nobody's taken any action. It could die. There's a lot of bills that get introduced that don't go anywhere. They can't find anybody that's real excited to champion them, but anyway.
Is there a companion bill for this on the Senate side? Because
Not
typically
yet,
they'll run
no.
out, so that's good news then.
Well, most of these kind of things start out in one or the other, and then if it gets traction, then they'll say, aha, we passed something, let's send it to the Senate. And then, it could die, and it could grow wheels and get bigger, you never know. So anyway, a number of things in the works. What was it, the permit, is it a revision that was $2,500? Amendment, and she ran the numbers with the online calculator, got a bigger number. The staff goes, no, I'm gonna put you down for about $2,000. But that could be $6,000 in August.
Yeah, so they're really pushing us to make that amendment. We have to do an amendment to our water, right? Because we need more PODs, more points of diversion. Right now, we've got people just, they're not assigned anything.
Right.
They are still getting tracked, and they're still getting reported to the state, but they're just not
Yeah,
assigned a number.
so it's been busy. So we have a follow-up in March. Anyway, we'll let you know over here. And then related to this, because Lila and I have spent a lot of time on this lately, we have an attorney and a water rights consultant under contract that was signed some years ago that I don't think was presented to the council for you that have been here a few years. What year was that started? In 2017?
And that or 18.
So, Duke, you might have been on the council.
Yeah, I was on the
I talked to Susan, she said she was never briefed on it. It went back to where Susan was on the council. Anyway, she didn't know. We looked it up. We've got one agreement that's like almost 90 grand. And I was like, how did this get signed? We don't have 90 grand. But we've been, they've been building little pieces. So this year, this fiscal year, we've spent $10,685.34. So we're gonna put them on pause. We don't wanna cancel the contract in case we need something, but we're gonna ask them to not do us any favors. I mean, every time they review a bill and send us a memo, it costs us, between 150 bucks and 750 bucks, so. Right, and so right now.
How are they getting any work from us? Are we sending?
Well, some of this, the contract says you'll do all these things.
Right,
And so they just do it and then send us a bill
in
and
the
a
background.
memo. And so, yeah, we're gonna tell them, take a pause.
How long was the contract for?
It's
Oh, I mean, for,
open-ended.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For the
so I'm
attorney, it's
uncomfortable
open-ended.
with it.
So should we review this contract?
At this point, it's too late, so we're just gonna park it, we're not gonna spend any more money, and then we'll decide, we'll make that decision, it'll come to council if it's more than 10 grand or whatever Lila's spending limit is, then it will come back. And I asked the staff point blank, I said, I don't want legal advice, I want your advice. Do I need a consultant? Do I have to hire a consultant for any step in this process? And they said, yes, you need a certified water rights examiner to sign off your final beneficial use. Everything else, we're gonna walk you through the forms, it should be, you guys should be able to do it. And I said, okay, because I'm spending a really lot of money on attorney memos that say, you haven't done this yet. I'm like, well, I knew that.
Yeah.
I could have saved myself 1,500 bucks. So, anyway, I don't know why, but after 2 years of nothing, there was a status report from 2 years ago that said, here's some things that need to be done, and neither Lila or I even realized this contract was open. And then they said, we need to have a meeting, and sent us a 3-page letter, and then we got a bunch of bills for the letter and the meeting and the time. And so, I don't know what triggered them all of a sudden, but we got one permit that had expired, it was overdue for this amendment. And so, we're gonna make sure that gets done and brought back up, and you get a time extension, and everything else has time extensions either approved or in peer review, as they call it, in the state's organization with a recommendation for an extension. So they said all of our other stuff, we're fine. Some of these are extended to 2031 or 33, or they're a few years out, so there's no crisis. But we do have another check-in date of October of this year. So once we finish this extension or whatever we need, amendment, then we'll work on that. But we've been doing it ourselves, and so far staff's walking us through the process, so far so good. But yeah, I was shocked. We added it up as 10,600 bucks. So
Who signed that contract?
Miss Mills, and then Larry, you're going to call Boomer Right about fish greens. See if we can get any traction, and they'll, we'll figure out that if this went to whatever environment or whatever committee, and then we'll see who's on the
I
committees.
think part of the problem is, of course, right now Boomer's in the middle of the session.
I know.
So we're not gonna get his attention.
That's what I think. And the fish greens themselves, there's no modifications in front of the Senate or the House, so yeah, we'll probably have to wait till the end of the session.
Yeah, I mean, we can,
put a bug in his ear and tell him there's a lot, anything that's water or, water system fees, we're real sensitive to that.
are we meeting with the folks on the other side of the water equation? We met with the water master and they said they didn't care. But,
Well, they said, we care because you have to get a signature from Fish and Wildlife.
right, so it's the.
And we met with them
Okay.
once, and that's when we kind of got our arms around all this stuff. Yeah, that's where we came back to you saying.
Do they
I
have a
haven't seen
position
it.
about this?
Their position is it's law. I mean, for them right now, the staff, it's like, yeah, you just have to do it. So we may need to go backwards further and say, did they study this in some areas? Like which areas did they prove that it was super effective? Because we're not seeing it. and start the conversation. I think it's gonna have to get changed politically, you know, staff's quite
Do they have
comfortable.
a political dog in the race?
I don't think so.
Okay, so if we asked them pointed questions about how was this ever researched, would they not take umbrage at those kinds of questions?
Well, if you just
But
said,
I think we
help
should
me
do it
understand.
anyways.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you,
It's our
if
due
you're,
diligence.
if you're tender about it,
Right.
they'd probably say, oh yeah, we got all these old reports and this stuff was done
Okay,
12 years ago. I mean, a lot of this goes back a ways, so some of the people doing it today, they have no idea how they
yeah,
got
so the
here.
narrative has to be given to Boomer and other people to say,
Yeah.
well, this is how it came across.
And then pretty soon it's, I mean, it is interesting, the original legislation says for irrigation pumps of 30 CFS or greater, that's a big pump. The entire city's allocation, if we were maxed out, is 1.4 CFS. So in the big scheme of things, that's a pretty small pump. And a 30 CFS pump moves a ton of water and could suck up
Yeah, okay,
big fish.
Yeah.
Right, so that was a totally different problem that it started with. And it was irrigation water for farmers where they were taking like 90% of the water in a stream and potentially 75% of the fish in the stream. So totally different problem there than when you have a lake with a pump this big versus a pump this big in a stream that's 15 feet wide. And,
Now, it's really interesting because, and Duke can probably weigh in on this, but to my understanding, Department of Fish and Wildlife actually never came in here and told Dune City that they had to do it.
yeah, they did.
They did.
Oh, definitely.
But
Absolutely. It became a permit requirement. When we did a permit amendment, they said all municipal permits are required at fish streams. And all new permits, even an individual today, anywhere, they would say you need a fish stream. So, yeah, we asked that question, because Joe asked that question. Why are we so inconsistent? And I was like, that's a good question. And they said, it's because you're a municipality and all the new permits, and if you buy an old house with an old permit, we're silent. You know, if you were permitted in the 50s or 60s or 70s, we're fine. But if you amend it, they're gonna add the new requirement. So all municipalities, regardless of the age.
so really what we need is.
So our water rights from the 60s, but it became a requirement.
When we did a previous amendment, and as soon as we did that amendment, it triggered that requirement from ODA.
On everything in the municipality. Yeah,
Even on our small residents. So what we need is a carve out legislatively that says, okay, for your big 30 CFS, keep doing it.
for systems less than 5 CFS or something.
Right, just
Look away.
not needed, you know.
And I think we could, if we brought in the OHA because of the way that they classify the water systems.
Yeah, and then we don't have a municipal system with a big single point of intake.
Mhm.
We have a municipal water right with a scattered system. And so that's something that's unique to us too, that we're talking to the water master's office. They're like, yeah, we need to figure out how to permit you as a municipal system without building a pump station in a single reservoir, because that's really what the equation's written around. So yeah, we're probably an unintended consequence.
Well, let's get it rectified so that people.
Easy peasy.
What we need is,
It's taken this long
I
to do
know.
it, so it's gonna take twice as long to undo
we
it.
need a legislative writer that's attached to something really juicy that they wanna pass.
Or that no one cares about,
Yeah, right. just
right? I've done that before.
realistically, who's checking these pumps?
We're not gonna talk about that during a live meeting.
Who what?
You're on the record, bro.
I have another question off of another thing. When you do talk to Spectrum about
Yeah.
the cell phone services, will you perhaps bring in the lovely road that is always a cause of accidents that have no cell service whatsoever? to see
Yeah, I was
if you
gonna
would
tell them those around the
volunteer-
area if they'll look at it. yeah.
Volunteering services
I
for
can-
emergency call boxes perhaps?
I mean, I can ask for Dune City, but I'm gonna tell them your story. You know, you're going south, there's nothing. If you're in my driveway, there's pretty much nothing. So if you get sick at my house, you gotta get
On
around
the
the
corner
corner.
of Ford Way and Lake Drive, there's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, no, I know the feeling. But it gets better going that way, depending on where you're at, you know, as you go towards Florence, but it's spotty.
Yeah, it's spotty.
Yep,
Until you
until you
cross
get
the
over that
bridge.
little hill, yeah.
It's really strange lately, I've noticed, driving down through that way, that I can stay on the phone clear to almost Carter Lake, where we never used to be able to go past the bridge right here.
Yeah,
It's
kind of
improved.
scattered.
And then it changes, and then coming down the hill, coming back, you can typically get that clear down to the bottom, coming this way, but,
Yeah.
and it used to be top of the hill.
Yeah, you'll pick it right up at the campground again, you'll pick up a little, quarter mile existence, and then you don't hit anything until the base of the hill,
Yeah.
going into.
So what's really weird about this is that Spectrum is really just giving you a Verizon signal.
I know,
And if you go online and you look at the
they
Spectrum
got
map
nothing.
and the Verizon map, they are to the pixel.
They told me that when I signed up.
Identical, yeah. but
They
when-
said, oh, you'll be a Spectrum customer and probably talking to a Verizon antenna if we don't have one. And yeah, I look at the map, I'm like, you don't have a single thing in the neighborhood, but they're,
No,
but they sell the landlines and the data, so you get the cell phone deal and.
Well, when I moved here, I lived here for about 6 months, and then all of a sudden the service got really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, horrible. I mean, I couldn't get a signal at my house at all. And I asked him, I said, have you guys done something here? Have you changed anything? Have you modified the cell tower? Nobody had an answer for me,
I just got an answer for you.
okay?
That happened, and if I remember approximately when that happened was about 7 years ago, maybe 8. They built a new tower north of Fred Meyer up there and quit using this tower down here for, all the cell phone service. And when they did that, before they did that, I could get self-service at my place at Darling's. After they changed that, I can no longer get cell service there, you have to be on Wi-Fi call.
Which phone company was that?
Verizon.
Yeah, but see, my business is right near that cell tower in the north. What I'm talking about is something that changed at my house in the last 6 months. So,
On Woking.
we had Verizon service on Cloud9, and then we didn't. And I called them and they said, well, we'll send you a Wi-Fi range extender. And that's good for one room in my house, because I have a metal roof, it just doesn't work. So I switched to Mint Mobile, which is T-Mobile, and now I have a signal, even at your restaurant, because it's a different service. Now, I've got it right here, and I've got 2 bars, but occasionally it'll show 5G in different places. And really what it is, it's a T-Mobile signal. So I switched, and I've been much happier.
I got 1 bar.
Yeah, but it works. The point is, even with 1 bar, it works pretty well.
I got nothing here.
Yeah. And so it's like really frustrating because I don't know, there must be something that they were transmitting down here, and then they weren't. And so it got
Well, I know
worse.
that tower on the hill, you can find the coverage, there's like 7 antennas on there, right?
Right.
And they're all aimed, and they just barely get to the lake, and
Right.
they're not trying to broadcast across the lake, and I'm on the other end of the lake,
Yeah.
and we got nothing. I mean, they're not even trying. Yeah, they beam it down the sand dunes. If I go to Silku's, to the parking lot, stand on the sand dunes, I got 3 bars of 5G.
Right, exactly.
Playing on the beach, driving, if I drive in the sand dunes, I got better service than.
Maybe it's where they've had the most calls needed.
Well, it's where the tourists go, and they get 50,000 people that go on vacation, and they all call. And we got 800 residents, and if they want, I'll call them. We're 1,400 residents, I don't know how the phones.
Well, it's not great, let's just put it that way.
No, it's not. So we'll try. I mean, we'll reach out to them again. And then the last item on my list, and this is the most exciting, I found a do-it-yourself septic inspection guide. They do this in Washington State. The state of Washington published a guide. We talked to the state EPA in Oregon, and they said, your ordinance is pretty restrictive. In fact, it's probably the most restrictive for any city in the state of Oregon. And they said, you should consider some sort of waiver or some option. And so our ordinance right now says you have to use an expert, basically, and you have to use the state's 8-page form.
The DEQ form, yeah.
So there's plenty of other forms out there, so probably the way to get there is we've got to open up that ordinance and add some options. Because we were looking, if it wasn't prescriptive, we were going to do it by resolution and say, if you guys want to approve this, homeowner could do this, this, and this, and it's pretty straightforward. This guide is 29 pages with cartoons and pictures. It's really well spelled out. You do it with a piece of PVC pipe and make all your measurements. So, if that's your appetite, then we're gonna go through and put a little package together for you to view, and then we'll,
That's good.
because an ordinance will have to, it'll be a public hearing, we'll have to invite comments and But anyway, I think it's doable, even the Oregon water system, right, they do this in the county at an hourly rate, but they don't use the 8-page form. And so, because we're so specific, you have to use the 8-page form, it's like, the expert could do it, but if he doesn't fill out the form, it doesn't count, because of the way we worded it, so. Because they only do, I mean, they'll just do the inspection, you know, like $110, $115, so, I'm with you, I wanna have some options there for either a do-it-yourself or somebody that just wants an inspection, and it doesn't automatically turn into pumping, you know, you can get the math and then say, well, based on the chart, I'm not doing anything for 7 more years, and I'll see you then.
That was the core of the whole,
Yeah.
how it got passed.
No, you're right.
Because of that one.
It's got all the right language in it, we just, our form, and so we're too specific about it, you have to use somebody with a certificate through the state and the form, and it's like, that takes you back to
And I
that.
don't really want to get into making a new ordinance. I was there for years doing that. We spent tens and tens, maybe $100,000 on attorney fees.
Right.
I don't think we need a whole new, reinvent the wheel in this, but do
Right.
amendments to it. I think we clean
I
it
think
up.
we do a couple of
Yeah.
options, right?
I'm up for amending.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, there's some good stuff out there, there's, yeah, I mean, they're all measuring the same thing, they just give you a guide for a homeowner to do it with all the safety instructions and all that stuff, so.
Can I add one to your,
Yeah,
what have you heard lately on the FEMA stuff?
absolutely nothing. And I'm thinking with the change in administration, we may never hear about it again. No, nothing. The time to do something came and went, and it got real quiet. And I can ask the mayor that's the chairman of the mayor, because he was sending us all correspondence, yeah, and it got really quiet. And most of the entities were like us, they discussed it and said, we're not just gonna approve this. And then he said, my advice is slow roll it, just, you introduced it, if something changes, you know, it's nothing, we haven't gotten anything back at all, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, keep your fingers crossed. I mean, there's areas that some of these revisions might make positive, but this is like just saying you gotta have a fish screen everywhere just for the sake of having a fish screen. This was, the riparian was 170 feet, no matter what, instead of 50, which makes a whole lot of lakefront lots not buildable.
Right.
It makes absolutely no sense.
No, because most of the lots around here are too steep, the water would never go inland 170 feet. This was about fish and wildlife during floods. And I'm like, we have a flood where it goes in 170 feet, we got big problems. I think they call that a tsunami.
Yeah.
Because it's way in, right, coming up a river, across a lake, raise a lake, 12 feet.
Well, basically, all of Dune City would be non-existent at that point.
Nope.
All of it, almost all of it.
Silkus, everything around Silkus is the low area. And
Well,
the intersection out there, I'm like 110 feet above the highway.
well, you take Woolink, start measuring 170 feet from there.
No, not up, in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm further than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, oh, you're right, 2/3 of the buildable acreage is done,
Gone.
and it really affects all the future. It makes all those vacant lots, like, it's just open space,
Yeah.
there's not enough room to build anything.
Basically, they just want to steal your property.
They didn't want any
Whatever
property,
it's
just
worth.
couldn't develop it.
They just
So,
don't put
anyway.
them up so they won't pay out any claims.
Yeah, no, that was good, that's a good question. We also, they said it will really affect your folks if you don't adopt it that are in special flood hazard. I don't think we have any homes in the special flood hazard area. So it ended up, it's kind of a zero-sum game for us. It didn't fix anything. There's other areas where you got lots of houses that are subject to flooding, ours weren't, so. So anyway, chapter 91, where we don't have okay, so 91 will be, this was our target, and there's been too many things, so anyway, that Lila will have the doctored up version of,
I doctored it up, but it's not ready to present
not ready,
yet.
okay. So that's the last item on the agenda. We have no need for an executive session. We can do a quick, for the good of the order. Let's ask Susan first. Can you hear us, Susan? Nothing? Okay. Larry?
I saw some chatter on social media about people getting injured using non-licensed contractors.
I saw that.
And I just wondered, since I'm new to this, do we have a business license protocol for everyone doing business in the city?
Yeah,
So if you're a landscaper or a,
and that's basically all that's covered is landscapers, contractors, and,
Plumbers, electricians.
yeah.
Electricians, tree trimmers.
Yeah.
Are all
and
required
then,
to have them.
But yeah, I saw that, and there's no details. It looked like he got a load of firewood.
yeah, I think maybe he got himself in the wood chipper. It sounded like he cut himself in the wood chipper. I don't get yourself in the wood chipper,
Yeah.
but,
I don't know that.
we don't wanna see anybody get hurt.
No,
But, now when we do give a business license to people, are we verifying that they're licensed and bonded? Is that part of their protocol?
Yeah. that's the only reason we do it, is for
Right, and if they
contractors.
say they're licensed and bonded, can we check their bond?
Mhm.
Okay, that's good, they provide proof of that.
Yeah, you look them up on the state contract report
All right,
website.
so there's a whole lot of other people that do work in the city. They might be housekeepers, they might be, who knows?
They're all exempt.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, we have an interesting business licensing chapter. It says all these stuff about business license, and then it says the only people that need it are contractors and landscapers.
Okay.
So yeah, it was limited years ago, so it's a very narrow group.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw that post. I don't know.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah, please.
So the difference obviously between a business license and a professional license, so when we sign up for business licenses here, if you're registered with the state, that's a business license. Does the city check the professional license, like your LCB or whatever they're called?
CCB or?
CCB, and then landscaping's LCB. So does the city check and make sure not only is it licensed and registered in Oregon, but it has the professional license to the scope of work they're doing?
Yes, Pam does that.
Okay. Okay. So like a wood person wouldn't need any kind of license whatsoever other than a city license? Okay.
And is somebody cutting firewood, is that by definition somebody that needs?
I don't think so.
No, it doesn't.
Just like,
In Oregon, that's a pretty unregulated industry. That's been my experience.
who's not splitting wood, that's what I mean, It's like,
Anything?
that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Rich?
Not much. The water level's actually dropping finally fairly quickly here the last couple of days, but things have been going pretty good.
All right. Melissa?
Nothing, yeah.
Duke?
I'm just glad that we're addressing the septic.
Yeah,
I think we can get this
I
resolved.
learned a lot.
Yeah,
I'm doing some research.
I know more about it than I ever thought I would.
All right, thank you. So if there's nothing else, we will adjourn. Oh, sorry, we need a motion to adjourn. Sorry, can't undo that.
So moved.
Thank you, I need a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Susan, good?
Are you in favor, Susan,
Yes.
of adjourning?
Okay. We'll adjourn at 6:38. I won't do that again. And then we'll go right into our budget training.